here in South Florida, Seminole Casino Coconut Creek, for my weekly 5, 10, and 10-25 bigger games. This first game is on a Thursday evening, 5, 10, 25, and it gets pretty crazy. First hand here, there's a button straddle to 25.
Hold on, so he's playing 5, 10, 25 here?
It's a big game. I don't know how deep he is.
That's a humongous game.
Yeah.
It's a huge game.
Let's see.
Oh, shit. I didn't mean to mute it.
Straddle to 25. I raise in the big blind with Queen Jack suited to $75. There's a call before Steve, a well-known action player in these games, re-raises me to $200. I make the call with Queen Jack suited, and the other player calls as well.
Pause it. Is it just me or is let's run this back.
And 25, and it gets pretty crazy. First hand here, there's a button straddle to 25. I raise in the big blind with Queen Jack suited to $75. There's a call before Steve, a well-known action player in these games, re-raises me to $200. I make the call with Queen Jack suited, and the other player calls as well. We're going 3.
All right. I don't think he said the positions, did he?
No, he didn't. So I have two thoughts about this as well. Like, just playing with a button straddle.
Bro, can you put some fucking pants on or something, dude?
No. I'm in my own house, bro. This is my God-given right. So when there's a button straddle, I think, especially when you're like in an action game like this, the EV of limping from EP in like with like a Mississippi straddle, right, it becomes much, much higher. So like limping small blind, limping big blind, limping UTG, even +1, I think gains more EV than raising from those positions, because you're very likely to get 3-bet and then have to fold, right? And then also just lots of people cold calling you, like really poor equity realization. It'd be best to like minimize the amount of money that you invest in the pot, and then also you can play like back raises. People are, especially fish, are going to be ISOing too wide, so limping becomes a lot better from like the big blind, which is where he's raising his hand from.
If that's what people are doing, then yeah, I find people play like too passively for me to do things like trap. So, but
yeah, it all depends. It all depends on the game.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah. So that's my thoughts. I think if he's in this action game, limping from these like earlier positions, especially from the blinds when the action starts on you, makes a lot of sense. So
I agree with that.
But so where are we at right now? We don't know the positions.
We don't know the positions. I don't know if we're gonna have to just figure it out. I would assume. I don't even know what position he opened up. It looks like the button's right there. So like it kind of looks like
he opened the big blind, and then there's a cold caller somewhere from like MP maybe, and then there's
he could be just he's probably just out of position here, like but like both players are probably like ahead.
Then he continues with a call.
I don't know how deep he is either. There's like a lot of unknowns about this hit.
I think calling is fine, because 3-bet is like the 3-bet was quite low or quite small.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to get too bogged down into the pre-flop
action.
Let's just
see what happens.
Even though,
let's just see how he operates here.
Ways to a Jack 10-9 2-heart board, giving me top pair and open-ended straight draw. I check. Late position player check.
Could you donk this board, or is it just too crazy to multi-way donk here?
No, you would not. Well, you know what? I wouldn't say you would not, right? Like, it really all depends on how your opponent you anticipate your opponent's playing. So before you jump to any conclusions about like, oh, this is not okay, this is okay. What's up? Like, I would think to myself, like, how passive is my opponent? How likely are they to reopen? How likely are they to bet? How likely are they to check? If you expect the check frequency to be extremely high, then you might have incentive to like start developing some like donking strategy.
I
But
guess
I really think
this board is not necessarily going to run out like well for you necessarily too. I mean, there's a lot of like bad runouts here.
well in position like everybody needs to tread pretty lightly on this
Yeah,
type of
that's why
board.
I'm thinking maybe you just don't play donks. I was just wondering. I don't even think your exact hand is really that great of a donk either.
It's hard.
I don't know.
It's hard to
I don't.
say.
I
It's
don't.
hard to say because this hand is extremely happy to like check call or even check raise versus certain sizes. So maybe you don't want to donk. Maybe you do. I don't know.
Okay.
Jackson, Steve puts out a bet of $200. I make a slightly unorthodox play and raise here to $600.
600 all in. All in. How much? 1,000.
Okay, so we got jammed on. I
Yeah.
don't hate the check raise, to be honest.
How like we don't know how deep they are.
I don't know how deep they are either, but like, hopefully he explains it.
I have a big hand.
After I raise, Steve snap jams all in for 3K. I think it's pretty evident that we're
I
behind.
guess this other player folded too, right? He didn't even get mentioned in this hand at all.
Yeah, probably just mucked.
Okay.
If he does have aces or kings, however, we do have a lot of outs. If he's got ace king or ace queen or the ace high king high flush draw, we're actually slightly ahead or flipping. I think early on in the game, I'm just going to gamble here. Two things could happen. One, I could win and be up 3K right off the bat, or I could lose and Steve could have a 6K stack, which I will then.
Okay, so the jams are about 3K. Such like a Chris Collinsworth comment. Like, what the fuck is that? It's like, well, there's two things that could happen. We could either win or we could lose. It's like no shit, dude. This is the only two outcomes of a hand. I guess
Yeah,
you could
maybe that's
chop,
not-
right? I guess you could chop, right? But
Not the best commentary. My thoughts on check raising. I think it's okay. I would be careful check raising fish. Basically, like if you're check raising fish, you're just trying to push equity. Because they're typically pretty like sticky on the flop after getting check raised. And then I would say another thing about that is like when they 3-bet jam on you, it's I don't really think there are many, like you really shouldn't anticipate many bluffs being in that range. Like it's an extremely strong range of hands. That's sort of what they're representing, but I think that they're not even like they're
well,
more.
hang on. It is Steve though. You know, he did
Steve
mention
is
this is Steve.
This dude Steve is like a whale. From what I can like, from what my understanding of it is that he's like a whale.
I mean, yeah, there's strong implications, right? That he's saying that this guy Steve is basically like the driving the action of this game. So
yeah. Also, not to like drag it back to pre-flop, but like the smaller 3-bet size usually indicative of like some smaller pocket pairs or like some weaker holdings. Like usually fish will size up with like the very top of their range. That's just obviously that's
from
not
weaker pocket pairs. You're talking about like sixes, or you're talking about like he could have like a set here.
I'm talking like sevens plus, right? That is not
You
like.
really think he 3-bet jams sevens? That seems crazy.
No, I don't think he's 3-bet jamming sevens. I'm saying that that's sort of the range of hands. So it's like if it's sevens plus, and then like some weaker holdings, like maybe ace jack, king jack, stuff like that. It could maybe ace 10 of hearts, right? These are all like really high equity hands or hands that have him have Alexo drawing. Not
Slim.
the thing with his
Slim.
hand is he's not drawing dead. It's just not. He's not. He doesn't have like
It's
that.
not like a
strong
great spot. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like a great spot. So I mean, it feels like he's gonna just call based on what he's saying, but I kind of expect you to call here and get shown um, the goods here occasionally.
Yeah,
We'll
I
see
would
what-
not.
We'll see what happens here. Let's see the outcome.
An add-on for 6K, and we can maybe play some bigger pots later on. So I decide to gamble. I make the call.
Up once or twice?
Twice. Fuck, that's not good at all.
You got 2 pair?
No.
It's like he has
2 times.
yeah, he's got five.
I had to hit it hard. Oh, wow. Quad 9.
Oh my god, I hit the straight too. So sick.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of I would expect that to happen, honestly, for like decent.
Pocket
amount.
nines is like pocket nines is a crazy hand to run into there to just like, but like that's when they snap 3-bet. Like the snap 3-bet jam is like, not only is the timing like extremely strong, but it is like, it's just strong in general.
Yeah.
Like even disregarding the timing, it's ridiculously strong. So.
Yeah. So I guess
don't
we
know.
can assume that he's buying in for 6K here based on what he said.
Yeah, he's gonna top up. He's gonna buy it for 6K.
Even though I
think,
do- 4.5 of folding, I do pick up black pocket queens from early position. We're actually playing 10-handed now. I raise to $75 and get 4 callers, 5 ways to the flop here with queens. To jack 5-6, 2 diamonds. I bet out $200 into all these.
see, okay, this is the issue. I'm just not sure what the action was pre-flop, right?
I mean, I mean, like you just don't know, like
Where people are calling from,
Correct,
and like
yeah.
it seems like, so like, and it seems like he's leading into.
I gotta say, I'm
Multiple
giving
opponents
his
here.
commentary for the hands are getting a 2 out of 10. I'm sorry, this is bad.
Yeah, the
hard to
commentary,
follow.
is lackluster. Dude,
Hard to
for
follow, and you know, you're giving me Chris Collinsworth fucking things. All right, I don't like that, dude. Don't be
It's like,
telling me
we
there's
could either call and win, or we could call and we get stacked and have to
yeah,
buy.
don't be giving me
again.
no Chris Collinsworth. All right, dude. Next thing you're gonna be telling me you want to be under like the table with Josh Allen, dude. I don't want to hear any of this. All right, so, anyways, I might have to cut that out. Anyways, all right, so
Rewind this a little bit.
well, so I can just tell you right now, he bet half pot into the field here on Jack 5-4.
Well,
2
we don't know
diamonds.
where people are calling from.
But listen,
here, so
even if you're in position, this is danger. I feel like this is just like you're betting against too many hands, bro. Like I just feel like I don't know. You get a lot of information.
no,
on the
I get
turn
what you're
here.
saying. I think in position it's more reasonable to bet against like 2 fish, right? But like from out of position,
It's not 2
It-
though.
it really
it's like,
depends.
It's like 4.
really, okay.
Listen to the hand again.
Folding, I do pick up black pocket queens from early position. We're actually playing 10-handed now. I raise to $75
That's
and
also
get.
terrible. The feeling of playing 10-handed is terrible, dude. I'm just gonna say that right now. I don't know if he said that
Yeah,
like it was a
that's-
good thing or bad thing. That to me is a bad thing.
Yeah, it's horrible. Such a slow game. Anyway,
A slow game, and you're just, you know, I don't have this problem as much as, but I'm sure you do, where you're like, it's a little close, it's a little tight, dude. It's a little, you know,
no, I'm not playing any 10-handed games, dude. Fuck that.
you're not going up to the 9-handed tables and just being like, can I squeeze in here, guys?
You got room for one more?
Dude, honestly,
hell
I never mind. I can't say that's too mean. But like, I pictured like the largest guy in the card room coming in trying to squeeze in there, in that spot.
That's like, yeah, it's like that's the type of shit that happens in Houston. No, it's true,
All
bro.
right, hold on. Let's confirm what I said was true or not.
4 callers, 5 ways to the flop here.
So yeah, so he has 4 callers, right? So he's betting into the field of 4 people here, which I think is like just too many hands to do it again. Too many
I
ranges
see
of
what
hands.
you're saying. No, like I think
I don't
you
play
know,
any bets here. I think on like most boards when this happens, dude. Unless I just like
I
absolutely
wouldn't play any bets
smash
here,
it.
and I think the reason being is like fish, especially, they're going to convey the strength of their hand. They're going to telegraph the strength of their hand pretty quickly, like when you check to them. So
And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like you know you get a lot of information on later streets, especially.
yeah, and this isn't like a hand necessarily that you would, especially since you're so deep, like you would not want to put. You would not want to just pile money on the flop. Like this is not a hand that's going to stack off comfortably versus one of these players. When
No,
you're so
you're like
multi-
sick if you get check raised here. Or
Oh,
just-
yeah, you're
not,
throwing
like,
up
You're
in
not
your
like
mouth.
happy about it. I mean, even if you're not like that upset about it on the flop, there's just so many turns where you're gonna want to throw up and especially if the dude has any balls, you're gonna be in a terrible spot.
You're going to be in a gross spot, dude, for sure. So what happens?
players and just get 2 calls. Turn guard's a 7.
He gets called twice. You don't know by who. But I'm
Yeah.
sure, like, if people are playing like this, the ranges are all over the place regardless. Not that that means not that that actually conveys any, like, clarity to the hand, but, like, I don't know. It's hard to follow, but I would say, like, you get 2 calls here, like, okay, it was probably a successful value at this point, more likely than not. I think you get raised a lot by a set.
I think that's even close. Yeah, you probably are getting raised a lot.
I mean, what hand is beating you that just calls you 5-4, and that's like.
I think the main reason is that you may want to be careful on the flop is like not because you will get called primarily by hands that you might be dead against, right, or close to dead, but it's like there are a lot of bad runouts. Like there are like many cards that significantly hurt the equity of your hand. Like just
Right, which is only more detrimental the more ranges you're going against. Like once you get
sure,
multi-way,
for sure.
that those mistakes are much more like the amount of money you're like at stake to lose or likely to lose. I think is much higher.
Yeah, like there's no run out that can occur on this board that by the river queens are like in excellent shape. So anyway,
I mean, I get why he's betting. I get why he's betting because at the same time, like the runouts are so bad, you probably just think like, oh, I need to bet queens here, which I kind of get. I kind of get where he's coming from. I would be more likely to back it, like you said, if he was in position, but I don't know if that's the case or not.
Okay, go
Definitely
ahead.
could help my opponents out with some straights and some 2 pairs. So I pot control and check. Middle position.
You're not really facing that many straights here. I guess unless you're like flat calling 6-3 suited here, right? Which seems like wicked out of line.
It is out of line, but he's in this quote unquote action game, so I
6-8
wouldn't
of diamonds,
leave
I guess,
anything.
is like, yeah, you're right.
8-6 of diamonds, 8-6 of hearts, 8-6 is a gutter. Like so, 8-6, 6-3, like it's
probably has all
well
the
within
8-6,
reason
yeah.
for a fish to call. Yeah, so
If he I mean, if he calls with 8-6, he's not folding flop. Yeah, I guess that's fair. But that even makes it honestly that kind of shit makes it even worse to bet. I think on the flop. So let's see what.
all right, let's finish.
Position
that
player
hand.
puts out a bet of $550. Other player folds in versus this particular player type.
He check
A bet of
call, or
5,
is this
2
a
pairs. So
He check calls.
I pot control and check.
Okay.
Middle position player puts out a
Goes
bet of
quick.
$550. Other player folds in versus this particular player type. No way I can fold an overpair, but I am going to proceed with some caution. River card's a 2. I check. He checks. And we lose
Wait, you lose this?
to 5-7 of spades, 2 pair on the turn. Running these poker
Yikes.
games, I found a new form of tilt. That tilt is whenever there's so much action, so much money being pushed around the table, and you're card dead. You can't win a hand. Every hand you do play, you lose. I'm in this game now for $12,000.
That just
I'm
sounds
sitting
like
with
normal tilts.
Wait, what was he saying?
He was saying that's like not a new form of tilt. That's just like normal ass tilt. You know what I mean? Like you're just in a game and you're card dead. Like
Yeah, I mean, I guess
that's
it
just
doesn't seem
being
that crazy.
that's that by to any normal person is just going to be tilting.
Yeah, that just
I
happens.
guess the action it makes it worse. Makes it that much worse. Like there being action all right.
very interesting spot here. The blinds are at 5, 10, 25, blind raised to 50. 2 calls for 50, aces, beautiful spot, $300 to go for me.
Why do you pause it?
Sorry, I just hold on 1 second.
Bro, the whole video you've been sweating your phone.
I know. I need to stop looking at it.
I calls for 50, aces, beautiful spot, $300 to go for me. I end up getting a caller from middle position, and then Steve makes the call after over limping on the button. Steve is a pretty prominent player in these games. He loves to gamble. He loves to get in there. I just doubled him up a few hours ago. Let's hopefully try to get our money back. 3 ways here with aces. Almost $1,000 in the middle already to 5, 3, 3, 2 clubs. All in all,
Okay, so this went limp, ISO, cold call, and then call. Am I
Yeah.
following that right? Okay. Okay.
I think this is a great board for me. I
Just
bet out
rewind it.
300.
You want to run it back? Yeah, we can run it back.
limping on the gamble. He loves to get in there. I just doubled him up a few hours ago. Let's hopefully try to
No,
get
like
our
right
money
all the way
back.
back.
3 ways here with aces. Almost a
Oh,
and then
I
3, 5 of money. A lot of gamblers and a lot of ways to get it back. And I end up getting into a very, very interesting spot here. The blinds are at 5, 10, 25, blind raised to 50. 2 calls for 50, aces, beautiful spot, $300 to go for me. I end up getting a caller from middle position, and then Steve makes the call after over limping on the button.
What? Am I bugging or is it very hard to follow?
It's hard to follow. I don't
From
know
middle
the exact
position, and then
directions.
$300 to go for me. I end up for 50, aces, beautiful spot, 300.
Oh, okay. It's a straddle. All right, that makes more sense.
It's a button straddle. Yeah.
Okay, because I was like, dude, why is the pot so big, dude?
$100 to go for me. I end up getting a caller from middle position, and then Steve makes the call after over limping on the button. Steve is a pretty prominent player in these games. He loves to gamble. He loves to get in there. I just doubled him up a few hours ago. Let's hopefully try to get our money back. 3 ways here with aces. Almost $1,000 in the middle already to 5, 3, 3, 2 clubs. All in all, I think this is a great board for me. I bet out $300, 1/3 size of the pot, trying to get called by ace high, all pocket pairs, straight draws, flush draws. Middle position player folds, but Steve makes the call. Heads up now to the deuce of hearts on the turn. Obviously a great card. Really shouldn't change anything except for 6-4, ace-4, and pocket deuces, but Steve could still have some smaller overpairs. Remember, he limp called pre-flop, so he's not going to have 10s, jacks, queens, and kings, but he could still have 6s, 7s, and 8s, all flush draws, and even some straight draws still. $800 bet.
Okay, so the turn went check, it looks like, right? Unless he's just...
Yeah.
From me. Now back over to Steve.
Oh,
At this
no,
point,
it didn't. He just replayed the act. Okay, so he bets turn for $800. I think that makes more sense. I was surprised it went check. Yeah, I mean, you got aces, dude, on a pretty, like, not very crazy board against, like, a fish, dude. I'm betting here. I don't think there's anything wrong with this.
I don't think this line is that bad so far.
Yeah, no, I think this is fine. I get money in here. I try to put money in.
I glance over at him, and I do pick up a little bit of a tell, potentially, off of his body language. Like I said, I'm not always looking for tells, but after playing with Steve for a couple years, it just felt like he was incredibly comfortable. He was sitting there, and it looked like possibly he could have a huge monster. It looked like he didn't really have a
Well, he's
decision.
got a huge monster.
He was just taking his time to make it look like he had a decision with a hand like a straight draw or a pair or a flush draw, when in fact he was sitting with a monster. So once he calls this $800 bet, the alarm bells are slightly ringing in my head. It is possible we could be beat here by a straight, trips, or a full house.
I will say the timing like does allude to maybe him considering raising, which I think is a good reliable tell that maybe it's not.
No, like you could have. I mean, if they're tanking, right, it's hard to get a read, but
Well, he said 2 things. He said he took a while before calling, and he also said he thought he was comfortable trying to look uncomfortable.
yeah,
Which I think is which I think is a hard read to put on somebody. But I mean,
for sure.
he said he's played with this guy for years. I wouldn't put it against him. I wouldn't put it past him to not think that something's going on here.
So what happens?
So when the final card comes out, the 9 of spades, front door flush draw misses, I decide now to check over to Steve.
What do you think about this?
I think he's playing it safe. Here's the thing with checking. When you check, your hand makes money bluff catching
Yeah.
profitably.
Yeah, that's what I was
Right,
thinking
like-
too. I feel like you're in the weeds trying to get called here in like a limp ISO pot here. I feel like it's tough to get called 3 streets here.
For sure.
But like you're pretty comfortable calling a bet here a lot.
No. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying it's when you check. Like if we're playing the exact incentives of our hand, right, and we're not super concerned about protecting our checking range, some of the EV that we gain from checking comes from our opponent bluffing into us.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really know if that's the case with this opponent. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean that's
Right.
wicked tough to say. I mean, let's see what he says. If I'm sure, I feel like he's gonna face a bet here. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's like if you anticipate your opponent bluffing, right? I think most fish aren't going to face a lot of aggression on flop and turn, and then just snap bluff the river on this type of front up. Like it's it's hard because like maybe you face a small bet and that's the case. I think the only times they are really bluffing or bluffing too often are when they bet small. So your hand does not really win much in that situation. And then in the other instance, it's like they bet large and you bluff catch, and it's like they're bluffing much less often when they bet large. So you don't win that much in that instance either. So I think the best thing for Lexo to do here would be to bet his hand, if I'm being honest.
I think it's good. I think that's fair analysis. I guess I would
Versus a
only think
fish,
that I
for sure.
think betting three streets here, it's like I don't want to say it's too thin because your hand's really strong, but I just like I feel like you don't get looked up very often.
Not only that, but you're unblocking the hands like you're blocking the hands that your opponent will bluff with on the river, and you're unblocking um a lot of like pairs that your opponent will call you with. So yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
let's see
it's
it.
tough. Yeah, let's see.
Expecting him to snap check back his sixes, sevens, and eights, and also potentially even check back some of his missed draws as well, considering he might not think I'm gonna fold. But he picks up all of his big chips, and then throws out 3 pumpkins and 1 purple $500 chip. That equals a $3,500 bet on this river. Wow, this hand just got huge. I'm sitting here with aces. I raised pre-flop, bet the flop, bet $800 on the turn. I check the river, and now Steve fires out an over pot size bet of $3,500. What the hell do I do here with pocket aces? A bunch of things are going through my head. One, Steve is up on the night. Usually when players are up money, they tend to bluff a little bit less. However,
Go ahead and pause this. I'm folding.
I kind of agree. It's just too big of a bet. It's just like it's just
It's
not.
not even that it's a large bet, like right, because I'm not going to fold just because the bet is large, but it's a fish betting large in a spot where it's like hard for them to have a ton of bluffs, especially when I'm blocking like some of their hands that would want to bluff, right? Like
If we
ace
assume
of
like
clubs being
every, and not even just like fish players, like we assume everybody in like the live poker streets who isn't like a studied online professional trying to play online is under bluffing the spot, and you have like the one blocker to like major draws they can have. It's yikes. And I only said the bet is big being relevant because I just think that like over bets on the river are incredibly under bluffed
um not
in
always,
terms
but
of like player tendency.
I think um versus fish for sure they are. So
I'm folding. Yeah, I think I agree. I think I'm also
yeah, I'm
folding.
folding. What do you have? I'm sure this guy just has like pocket fives, like if I had to guess, or like a three, right? So let's see.
Yeah.
Steve does know that I'm recording. The last video we played a huge pot in got over 130,000 views. Maybe he's trying to bluff me for the vlog, but maybe he just has me. Maybe he flopped a full house. Maybe he has a straight. Maybe he has trips, maybe even pocket nines. It's a huge bet. I really don't know what to do in this situation. I go back and forth. Do I want to call or I want to fold? And eventually, I decide to fold.
I think it's a good fold.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's a very
Well
good fold.
played.
I think that's a yeah. I'm gonna. I would have said.
Well,
I would have said he played it like pretty much like as well as he could have. I do think hindsight's 2020. After you said what you said about the river, I do agree with that. And I do think that betting is, and this is like a problem a lot of people make, and I'm guilty of this issue too, is that like people don't recognize that because the river bluff is so rare, it's better to just bet.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just got to think about. I'm not saying it's like it can be. I'm not even saying that like it's incredibly rare that they bluff. I'm saying that like you shouldn't think about like you should think about bluff catching in terms of like okay, if they're over bluffing, right? Like if they're over bluffing for like some humongous size, then it makes sense to check. But if they're not, if they're just over bluffing for like a normal size, and then they're going to be like not really bluffing that often at all, and then valuing these larger sizes, um, then maybe we should consider betting more. On top of that, like think about the range of hands they can have, and like what those types of hands would want to do, right? Like you have a hand like my opponent has a hand like pocket sixes here. He might be inclined to bluff catch rather than start bluffing with that hand, right? So there's a lot of like perceived perceivably there's a lot of bluff catchers in his range and not a lot of hands that are looking to bluff on this type of texture. That's at least my that's at least my analysis of it.
I would agree. I would agree with all that. I think that all makes sense.
Oh my god, you're such a sicko.
Stands. Call stands.
Fuck. Wait, what? Does this guy show King 4 of spades?
Yeah, I guess he just had the air ball. Wow. That feels bad, but I
That
do
feels
think that
awful,
Lexo
dude.
I think that Lexo as played, like checking the river, made a reasonable fold on the river. Like I would say that that is like totally like an absurd hand. Like this guy is clearly.
I mean, dude,
like,
I'm
some-
biasly completely. I'm getting owned there every time too.
Yeah. I don't think.
I'm no better in that spot. I'm getting fucked up there too every
And
time.
we both already before seeing the showdown decided that
Yeah.
folding was.
I was
folding
already
good.
yeah. I mean, I was leaning towards fold if he almost bet anything, but when he overbets
Yeah.
river, I'm like, I'm